What's going on, guys? My name is Kenta Goba. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined with my friend Bobby Ehdaie. Did I say that correctly?
That's right. That's correct.
He's an energy healer, spiritual healer, and a psychic. And I'm really excited to talk to him about today. I got a bunch of questions for him. And yeah, man, thanks you for joining. And I appreciate you coming on and coming all the way down here for this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I thank you for the invite, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. So tell us like how you got into like your spiritual journey in the first place. Like how far back was it? Bring us back.
Spiritual journey started, I think, around 2017. I had just kind of hit rock bottom, if you will, just career-wise, emotionally, with relationships, and just knew I was going in a direction that just wasn't sustainable.
Okay.
And I started looking into meditation and reading up on that, thinking that can heal me a little bit. And that led me into I got a chakra cleansing from a psychic. And that's where, that whole experience really blew my mind on what they're able to see and what they're able to do and the power that they have and what she was able to see by reading my energy. And so I decided that I needed to learn how to do that myself in order to be able to heal myself. But really, it started with really just hitting rock bottom and looking for a way out. I found meditation. And from there, I signed up for an online course on meditation principles.
Okay.
And from there, it just kind of continued to spiral and turn into, reading energy and reading auras and channeling. And so, but really it started around 2017, and then around, 2020 when COVID hit. We were all, locked up in our homes for a couple months, the first couple months there. And so a lot of, thoughts and emotions started coming up around then as well. And so that was another turning point in my spiritual journey where I started to do the healing and starting to address those thoughts that came up and started to learn how to resolve that inner conflict and started the healing process. That's been an interesting journey as well.
Right.
And but that's really when it began, was 2017. So
okay. So for people that are watching, they might hear the word psychic and think, woo woo, kind of like, well, kind of stuff that's just like a little esoteric, kind of like not a lot of people, think about this type of thing, right? So what is it? What is a psychic to you? Like, what does that mean? Because it's kind of interesting that you said you went and saw a psychic, and then you like wanted to learn the things that they were doing to heal yourself. So what does that mean to you?
So we all have these abilities. We're all divine beings. We're all, we're all born with these gifts. Some of them, are stronger with others.
Yeah.
And but they're all capabilities and abilities that we're able to learn. It's just, like any other skill. You've just got to learn how to use it, how to recognize it.
Right.
And so, for me, being able to read energy and being, claircognizant or clairsentient or clairaudient, and just being able to have that intuition, tap into your intuition, read energy, read the room, stuff like that. That's all part of that your intuition, those psychic abilities that we have. And some people are just tapped in a lot earlier.
Okay.
But I think it's something that we all have that we can all tap into. And I think it's something that everyone should look into, is really, leaning on their intuition a lot more, because you're really being guided by, your higher self. Your intuition is your higher self, your angels, your guides. And so, you really want to be able to lean on them because they're giving you good information and good feedback. When you have that gut feeling, that's your higher self telling you, you may not want to go in that direction because that may not be the best direction for you. And so it's really learning how to tap in. And that's something at the beginning of the year that I decided to do, was just jump in fully and lean on my intuition, lean on my guides, and surrender to them and allow them to kind of lead me in this direction, where I'm at now.
Okay, so you hit rock bottom. You went to see this person that practices similar techniques, I'm assuming. What were some of these things that you like that he helped you with, and how did that like help you overall?
Yeah, so it was a woman,
Oh, it was a woman.
and
Okay.
yeah, and we did it over the phone, which was
Okay.
really interesting because
Interesting. Yeah.
what she was able to read, just reading my energy over the phone call, was just pretty much blew me away. I, she knew a lot of my darker secrets that I really hadn't shared with other people,
Interesting.
and was able to, point out different conflicts I had with my father and other stuff. And so it
Mm,
was just really fascinating what she was able to read, just reading my energy and reading through colors, which is the
mm,
way she was taught. I ended up taking the same course that she
okay.
took.
Okay.
She's the one that kind of guided me to that course online. But what she was able to do was look in my energy field and find certain colors that reflect a certain emotions,
Yeah.
and help me by guiding me to release those emotions
Okay.
through visualization. And that's what energy work is,
Yeah.
essentially
Right.
is visualization and seeing things as energy and being able to manipulate and move the energy, and release that energy from you. And so
Interesting.
that's how she was taught, and that's eventually how I was formally taught as well.
Okay. So if you don't mind sharing, I mean, when you say you hit rock bottom, like I'm sure a lot of people are going through some tough times and whatnot. Like, what did that look like for you? Like, what were you going through at that time, and like to make you like go, you know what, I need to go try something, and then you find meditation. Like, what was the?
Yeah, it was just a culmination of, just maybe choosing the wrong career paths, or just,
Mm,
some dead ends,
mm,
and financially was struggling,
mm,
emotionally, just depressed, going through
mm,
a few years of depression,
right.
several career changes, just lack of direction, and just lack of income, and just
Mm,
just knowing that what I was doing at that time just wasn't going to be sustainable. I wasn't moving forward.
right. Right.
And so I just knew, I was depressed, I was at home, and I just realized that I had so much more potential than I was
Mm,
really tapping into,
yeah.
and knew what I was capable of, and just decided to one day try and make a change, and
Yeah.
see how I can heal myself, and just
Right.
turn my life around,
Right.
because I really I just didn't like the direction that I was going, and just didn't want to keep digging that hole.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I was just fortunate to, I think I came across like some sort of quiz online, some random thing like what chakra is blocked, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you go through a little
Yeah.
quiz and fill out a couple questions, and then it told me, your root chakra is blocked. And
Mm,
so I look into, okay, well, what's the root chakra? And it talks about career and this and that and relationships
right.
and everything that I was struggling with.
Right. Right.
And so from there, it just became easily, it was like, oh, this is, I resonated with it.
Mm,
It's something I'd never looked into before. I wasn't very spiritual at the beginning,
yeah.
or ever really in my life.
Right.
And so this is just, some new information and something I found that just started to resonate.
Yeah.
And so, I started to just piqued my interest, and I started just, down that rabbit hole,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
looking. And like I said, I eventually, a friend's daughter had just gone through that psychic program
Okay.
that I took online,
Yeah.
and I reached out to her, and she's the one that did the chakra cleansing.
Got it.
And she led me through those meditations where I'm draining that energy and draining that tension out of my body. And I mean physically, the next day I felt amazing. Like
Interesting.
I can physically feel the difference. I felt lighter. It wasn't as heavy. It wasn't,
Right.
it just wasn't in that cloud.
Right.
And so I just, and just like I said, what she was able to see and know about my life without even sharing anything with her,
Right.
I just was blown away at what she was able to see. And so, at that point I was like, I need to learn how to do
Yeah.
that. But then
Yeah.
also just not necessarily to read other people. It was really to learn how to heal myself and be able to
Interesting.
eventually, kind of continue that
Yeah.
healing process, and be able to heal myself in that way.
How do you think someone like that is able to know those type of things about you? Like, how do you know what I mean? Like, you give her some sort of information. She can obviously read your energy through some form, right? And then it's on the phone. Like how's that possible?
She was a pretty gifted energy reader already. She had shared with me that, growing up, she would see things on the sidewalk and, stuff like that, and
Okay.
ghost and whatnot, and had
Whoa.
some
Okay.
experience. So she was already, tapped into that other side. And
Yeah.
so she, naturally she had a gift to read, but really it's just learning you know, to tap into that person's energy, and being able to come from a very grounded space
Mm-hmm.
in order to, read somebody else's energy. And the way she was taught and the way I was taught was to really, you're feeling for a color. And then, the body will give you, or the aura will present to you a color. And from there, from that color, you want to just start asking questions and start digging into that color and asking it what it represents in the body. Something like, like a funky orange or something
Yeah.
could represent like an infection, or, like
Ooh,
if you
okay.
start to think about, relationships between colors, and,
Okay.
red and being love, and purple, and,
Yeah.
you've heard the term green with envy,
Oh,
so like,
interesting.
your aura is holding certain colors,
Yeah.
and that really reflect the emotions that you're carrying inside.
Yeah.
And so she's able to tap in and start seeing, through those colors, what emotions that I'm carrying.
Interesting.
And yeah, I thought that was,
So when you're talking about the chakras, because when you say colors, I think about the chakras because you've seen those diagrams, people sitting and there's like their chakras, like a little kind of rainbow,
yeah.
And like just like you said, like the root chakra is red. It has like it's tied to career, sex, all those type of things, power, whatever. Like, is there like some sort of polarity within those colors? Like, because you were saying green with envy. When I think of green, I'm like, well, that's like the heart chakra. Is like it's like love. Like it's like feeling. Like what's I don't know. I kind of that's where my mind went. Is like there's sort of a polarity there then. Like
There's different variations within the colors. And so on a very simple, um, like if you just take an ugly version of the color versus like a bright, healthy
Okay,
looking version of the color. So we're going to
interesting.
have
Okay,
that whole spectrum
yeah.
within our body. There's like a nice pink could represent something, but like a kind of ugly clouded pink can represent, something else. And
Right.
so it's really, and just through practice,
Okay.
learning it, just like any other skill, you've just got to
Yeah.
practice that, and through, figure out what you're reading,
Yeah.
and you know what the different colors
Yeah.
can represent.
Is there like I mean, I would imagine being someone that is tapped into this like space and this energy like frequently. Um, when you are out and about and you see people, are you seeing colors? Like, is it something that you're like constantly like almost like you can't help but like see the auras and like stuff like that? Is that something that you're?
I'm able to see auras. I usually have to be in a very relaxed space.
Got it.
The last time that happened, I went to see a speaker at a church, and he was a rabbi who had lived with like the Buddhist monks and whatnot. Really interesting guy. This was out in Sedona when I was
Okay.
living with my psychic teacher out in
Okay.
Sedona.
Yeah.
And we're in this little church. He's speaking, was very quiet, very calm, and I can see a blue aura from about the waist up, surrounding him. And that was one of the first times that I, really can just see it on somebody in the
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
And I told my teacher, she was sitting next to me, and she said, yeah, this is like the time that you're going to see it, and he was a really interesting, really interesting person, really cool story. And I read people's energy just mostly like their emotions. I feel their emotions. I'm an empath,
Yeah.
so I can feel what other people are feeling
Yeah.
more. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of the first thing I get if
Got it.
someone's upset or emotional,
Right.
or that's kind of what I can tap into first.
Okay.
And so I get my body just, gets a good read on people's energy and just kind of
Yeah.
what's going on in their mind
Yeah.
at an emotional level,
Okay.
more than seeing colors.
I'm sure there's like a lot of people that would be watching that can relate to that, being like an empath. I can relate to it. What would you say some of the like I want to say gift and curse, but it's like some of the benefit, like, you've gone through your life, right? And it's like, I'm an empath. Like, what are some of the things that brought you value? What are some of the things that you're like, man, like, this is hard being an empath? You know what I mean? Like,
I'll tell you one thing, what's being hard is to have that energetic boundary, because when you're feeling other people's emotions, you're taking that on. So you're feeling their
right.
pain. You're feeling, when you see somebody in grief, you start feeling that grief, and it works the other way as well. When you see people in joy, you start feeling that joy. Like recently with the Olympics, I was brought to tears a couple of times because I can actually feel the joy that's going on in the athlete, at the end when they win the event, when they win their game, whatever. So I, as an empath, I can feel that. And I can get overrun with emotion. And so you really have to learn how to have those energetic boundaries in order to not take on so much in other people's energy. And so that's really the tough part about it. But then also that ability to feel and tap into people and know when, somebody's going through a hard day or whatnot, you can tap into that as well.
Yeah. What would be like sort of the opposite of, like, okay, there's people that are empaths. What's sort of like, the different types of people that have different sort of gifts, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people have that ability to, it's like the different clairs. Some people have, are more through feel, and some people are hearing stuff. The ones that are clairaudient, they can have, one of their guides whispering in their ear, or hear the ghost talking in the room, or the claircognizant is somebody who just has an inner knowing. That's something that I relate to. There's things that I just feel that I know that resonate with me and may not be scientific fact, but they resonate with me, and it's just an inner knowing. And and like I said, there's clairvoyance, is being able to see and have visualize, and so just the different senses come into play, and I think for everybody, they're going to have one that's going to be stronger than the other.
Okay, and what's clair? What is that, like, just meaning like psychic, or what is that?
It must be. I don't really know what the clair, but as what that means. But yeah, it's some sort of intuitive ability.
Okay. And when I think about, like, for the audience, like, I kind of started this podcast around mental health, wellness, overall health. And, I think right now, especially, there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with stress, anxiety, depression, things that you were saying, like, you hit rock bottom, like that kind of stuff. Whether or not they're feeling it from like a minor level or major level, there's people out there dealing with that, and they could be watching. So what are some of the tools, what are some of the practices that you would recommend for those people, just to kind of get involved with this type of work?
Yeah, well, I think that at a very basic level, I think meditation is something, that people should get into. And there's so many different ways and different techniques of meditation. You really just want to find what resonates with you and what you feel comfortable doing and what you're excited about. If it becomes a task and it's something that you're don't want to do, then it's not going to really help you. So I think just finding some way to calm your mind, breath work, go on to YouTube and find some breath work videos and just, start seeing what works, what resonates, and what, what you're attracted to. But I think anything to put you in that space where you start to clear your mind and become relaxed and, just find your breath, coming back to your breath. And like I said, you just have to find what works for you. I mean, even just taking a walk in the woods, on the beach, that can be meditating as well, going for a swim in the ocean, going fishing. So it's really, whatever you can do to clear your mind and to get in that place where you're just more at peace and just, where your thoughts aren't running.
Yeah. Would you relate, like, I mean, you said, like, I know you, so you fish, right? You're a fly fisher.
Yeah, I'm a fly fisher.
Yeah. So, there's meditation. When people think meditation, they think cross-legged, sitting on the floor, like, sitting, breathing, eyes closed, whatever, right? But you know, at least for me, I found meditation through surfing, through different, you know, sports, whatever. So how would you like? Would you also recommend things like that? Like, how does that
Yeah,
also correlate?
absolutely. I think just doing what, like I said, whatever can put you in that space where you're relaxed. I mean, like we know we both surf, so we know how
Yeah,
great we feel when we get out of the water
yeah,
and just very grounded. The ocean is
right,
very grounding for us.
right.
It's the same as, walking barefoot on the grass or in the
Mm,
sand. Just being in that ocean, that water is very grounding.
yeah.
So it's finding whatever you can do for yourself that's going to, bring that peace of mind, calm your body, calm your
Mm-hmm.
nervous system,
Yeah,
and really just come back to a place where you're just really grounded and
yeah,
balanced, and and have some clarity,
yeah.
and
Totally.
so really anything works as long as it brings you to that space.
Sure, sure. And I'm thinking like, as far as like your, because you practice, you know, your energy healing, your spiritual healing, with people, right? So with the clients that you have had in the past, like, what were some of the struggles that they've had that you know, helped them with, and like, how did you get them through that?
So I've worked with, just a lot of friends and family right now,
Yeah.
and some other, people have reached out. But I think a lot of people are just holding on to a lot of inner child trauma,
Mm,
and stuff from their past, stuff from their
yeah.
parents, their father,
Yeah.
and the home that they grew up in, the condition of the home,
Yeah.
and so really it's just learning to walk people through their, what's bothering them, and getting them to resolve um, that inner conflict,
Yeah.
and to go in and kind of look back and find where you can forgive
Okay.
and just move on,
Okay.
and it just really helps you integrate those issues from your past a lot better, just so that you can sit better with them.
Yeah.
And done a little bit of walking people through the energy work as well, that I've
Mm-hmm.
talked about, where you're just visualizing where you're keeping that tension in your body,
Mm.
and being able to visualize it, draining out of your body.
Where
And
do people keep most of their tension? Have you noticed?
I think it's like the hips,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
neck and shoulders.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
So
Yeah.
if when you're stressed, I mean, we all get stressed, so we all carry that tension in
Yeah.
our neck and shoulders.
Yeah.
And so, and then the tight hips as well. It can start from your knees all the way up. It affects your
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
and so I think those are the two main areas. I think for me, when I was working with my psychic, she saw me carrying a lot of like father energy in my lower back,
Mm.
where I'm
Oh,
definitely.
interesting.
So that was something that where she pointed out to me that where she was seeing it, where I
Yeah.
was carrying it,
Okay.
and so yeah, just in the places where your body is carrying a lot of tension.
Okay.
A lot of that could be, trauma, and
Right.
stored as energy and creating that tension.
Right. And then where do you think, like, okay, so as far as like the inner child work, right? You know, worked with, you said, friends, family, things like that, or people like that. Are they dealing with very similar childhood traumas? Like, when, I mean, I'm sure they're like opening up to you and stuff like that. You don't have to share like details, people, whatever, but is it very similar stuff, or is it very usually kind of unique to them? Like, what's the,
Everyone's got their unique situation
yeah,
and their story and their,
yeah,
and
sure.
their the issues and that are going on in their own
Yeah.
lives, and I've been able to relate just because I've gone through the heartache and the heartbreak, and
Mm,
I've had the the angry father and the
mm,
the troubled home,
right, right.
growing up. So I
Sure.
can relate a little bit to almost everybody, struggle with career,
Mm,
struggle with income, and
yeah.
I've been there, and so I do relate in a little bit of way. But everybody has their struggle.
Mm,
Everybody's going through something and has their problems. So,
yeah.
everyone has to, it's a personal journey at that point
Yeah.
to kind of personalize that healing experience for
Right.
them. But I do relate. But then, like I said, everybody has their own thing that they're working
Yeah,
through.
totally. And that's a lot of the stuff that you're talking about was in your book, right? Um, and I remember there were like you had a lot of quotes in there, right? Like you had like kind of towards like the middle, towards the end, you had like a bunch of quotes. Um, there was one, I can't. It's I think I have it saved on my phone actually, real quick.
Yeah, I
It
do
was a
have.
good one. It was something that I wanted to bring up. Oh, your mind replays what your heart wants you to heal. There was no author, so I can't
Yeah.
quote it. Was that you? I don't.
No, so
Okay.
that is a quote, and that's funny. I thought about that quote when we were talking
Yeah.
about what we were going to talk about,
Yeah.
and I couldn't find the author, but it's something that I found, several times through the spiritual,
Okay. Okay.
space,
Yeah.
and but that really applies to what my book is about is those thoughts that are coming up, that are resurfacing, those thoughts from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that are
Right.
replaying in your head.
Yeah.
These are the issues that your heart wants you to resolve. That there's
Mm.
still something in there to resolve in order for you to let go of them and not have them carry the weight that they once
Right.
did and affect your decision making now.
Right.
They're not putting you in a place of, where you're deciding from a place of fear.
Right.
You want to release that and be able to, make decisions from a place of love. And so it's really, recognizing when we have those thoughts come up. And that's something that I just figured out, during that COVID time
Yeah.
was, I took that role as the observer
Mm-hmm.
and I took a step back and I said, okay, what's going on? Why is this thought coming up?
Mm-hmm.
And so from there it was, okay, what happened? What was my role? What did I say? What did I do? What ended up happening? And, a lot of times I was really just being hard on myself for the decision that I had made.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I think I may have known better, or my intuition told me not to do something. I did it anyways. And then
Yeah.
I paid the price.
Right.
And so, moving forward, I was able to move forward and move on. But, there's something there that I still wasn't letting go of. And what I realized in my own journey was a lot of times I was just being hard on myself and just, for the decision that I had made.
Yeah.
And really and the way that I started resolving that was really, you just have to go back and forgive yourself. And so I found myself, after every situation going through that process and doing a lot of forgiving, and just being easier on myself.
Got it.
Which I think, when I was studying ayahuasca, because that was something that I wanted to do, that was the main theme coming out of all these people that had come out of the jungle, was like, learn to be nicer to yourself, learn to be kinder to yourself, because we're just constantly beating ourselves up with the negative self-talk and the unrealistic expectations and and so over time that just builds up and builds up and builds up. And so if you're doing that over 20 years, all of a sudden you've just really worked that into your cells and you're carrying that. And so to be able to go in or go inward and start resolving those thoughts that your heart, kind of keeps bringing into your mind, and start to resolve those one by one, you start to lighten that load that you're carrying. And that's what allows you to really, integrate those memories in a better way where they're just not affecting you as much as they once did.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something that, I think about. Like, I go back into my mind and go, man, like, what about the things that I may have, like, because our subconscious stores everything, right? Then we have our conscious mind that kind of can draw from what we have, like our history and things like that, and our memory, right? But our subconscious probably just has everything in there, So we could have dreams and like things pop up, and we're like, might not even remember like more than half the stuff that, actually probably way more than half the stuff that we've like lived, right? So, but then there's like experiences that we've had that where we may have feel guilty for or like ashamed about, but we don't remember them quite, but our subconscious has it stored there. How do you sort of process and like begin that process of letting that go and forgiving yourself there? Because in that case, like, you don't know exactly what you may have done that made you feel that way in the first place, which would be very helpful to know so that you can kind of dig it out in a way.
Yeah, the guilt and shame are definitely a big part of that, stuff that we store, stuff from
Mm-hmm.
your childhood that we're carrying from certain situations. And it's kind of the same process. It's just, asking yourself a different set of questions and just,
Mm-hmm.
approaching it differently but from my experience, it's kind of the same approach. Is really, you got to go back, and that's part of doing the work, is really
Yeah.
going back
Yeah.
and really asking questions,
Yeah.
and figuring out what is it that's bothering you, what triggered you,
Right.
what is affecting you from that situation that's not sitting well,
Right.
and so I think it's just a different set of prompts, and different
Yeah.
questions to go in and ask. But I think it's, you want to use the same process. It can be used there. There can be other things as well. There's
Yeah.
a ton of other modalities that you can use, hypnotherapy, other stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
But I think as far as just recognizing the situations that need to be resolved,
Yeah.
and going back and remembering the certain time that that you were
Yeah.
affected, and really just trying to figure out what you're holding on to that's just not sitting well.
Right. I guess like what I'm thinking about is basically like you're saying going back and trying to process those memories, but in my mind, I'm kind of seeing like for instance, like elementary school, I have memories of it, but I don't have like a ton of memories from it, and also like middle school, like I have like memories from it, but I don't remember. I remember kind of like how I was, like I was, sort of like I would say class clown, but just like to make people laugh, like kind of maybe a little louder, like, have this feeling of like maybe wanted to have a little bit of attention, that type of things. Sometimes I said things that just because I'm just trying to get something out of that, like an energy, like just something. I'm just like, whatever. But then I go back and I go, well, what were some of those things? Like, how was I making people feel and not even knowing, just being by me just going out and just being a kid, and maybe I like hurt people's feelings and like that energy maybe is attached to me somehow. You know what I mean? And so in that case, it's like I can't necessarily like go back and replay those memories. So do you think that's still like maybe just imagining what I could have, like just imagining that time period and then going into meditation and sort of forgiving myself for things I potentially could have? I don't know, like that's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like kind of
Yeah.
this is like the thought process I'm kind of
No,
going
and
through.
that's a tough part about the healing process, is we do block out a lot of stuff from our past, and
Yeah.
it's hard to remember every
Yeah.
little thing that happened to us
Yeah.
that traumatized us as a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah,
It
dude.
really is tough, and that's why see some spiritual leaders lean more towards the energy reading
Okay.
and the energy healing,
Okay.
because you're not necessarily picking apart every situation. You're just recognizing, in your body where you're holding that, and
Yeah.
visualize it as energy.
Yeah.
And then you're able to just, get rid of that energy by draining that energy
Mm.
visually out of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to come in and fill your body with positive energy after that, and fill that
Mm.
space.
Oh, I see. Interesting. Yeah. You don't want to just release
If
it.
you
You
just
want to.
release it, you're going to create that space, that negative energy will just come back.
Interesting. Got
So
it.
you've got to replace that negative energy with some positive energy, and
Got
do a
it.
little bit of a positive energy healing meditation
Yeah.
afterwards. But I think that's where some people lean more towards the energy, because it's really
Mm.
hard to go back and find every single time that you were
Mm.
you went through that traumatic
Totally.
experience. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's a little bit a part of it.
Okay.
That's from what I found, that just kind of like covers everything. And like you
Yeah.
said, it's going back, visualizing yourself with your inner child, and you know, just being there for your inner child.
Yeah.
You go back, sit with
Yeah.
them visually, sit
Yeah.
with them, be that person that they needed at that time.
Yeah.
You can just do that and make sure, let them know that they're loved,
Yeah.
and that, they're taken care of. And even that is very significant.
Mm-hmm.
When you start doing that, you start to feel
Yeah.
the effects.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but I think that's why I included the energy reading in my book was to just to kind of cover all the bases. If it's difficult for somebody to go back and, remember all those experiences, then you can just visually, drain where your cells are carrying that information and not be able to have to go back and do that.
So in the book, it's called
It's called Finding Your Light, a Shadower Guide to Spiritual Transformation.
Cool.
Yeah, it's an ebook. It's available on Amazon.
Yeah.
And really, it just talks a little bit about what shadow work is.
Yeah.
And how it affects you, how it shows up in your adulthood and in your life, and basically I just start with some prompts to get you to start asking yourself the same questions that I started asking myself when I started the healing process.
Yeah.
And so it's really just a guide just to nudge people in the direction of starting that healing process on their own, how to do it. And I've made it, very simple, just simplify the process.
Yeah.
So it's really approachable.
Yeah.
You can go through, read the prompts. There's just, questions that get you to start looking inward and starting to resolve stuff. And that's mainly the idea, is get people to start looking inward and start to heal themselves.
Cool.
Because, I think right now a lot of people want to heal.
Yeah.
They just don't know where to turn.
Yeah.
And this was just, I wanted something that was really approachable. I thought if it was, 300 pages of just words, it would be a little, overwhelming and, push people away from actually following through. So I made it real simple. It's a guide. It's, maybe 30, 32 pages long.
Yeah.
And like I said, just a brief description of what the shadow work is, and then it teaches you how to start going in and asking yourself questions and how to start resolving your inner conflict.
Yeah. I read the book. It was great, and it was a quick read. So it was nice to just, sometimes you can get lost in like you said, like 300 pages. You're like, there's a time and place for it, but I like to kind of get the information and be like, okay, I can work with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as far as like shadow work, like explain, like, I sort of understand because I read the book, and maybe some people that are watching understand. But what is it? Like, is that tied to the self-sabotage, like all the things that the negative, is that just the negative stuff, or is like, what is the...
Yeah, the shadow work is really just addressing that shadow side of yourself, those emotions that you're burying that you're hiding, and that, we're all... it's all a part of us, the dark and the light, the dark and the shadow. And, a lot of times we share the light side, but, we have this whole other side. And we really have to bring that into a balance and just be able to integrate that side, in order to have it affect us, less than it does.
Yeah. Interesting. So I said self-sabotage. That's something that, like, I think... I think I've dealt with it. I still kind of deal with it in certain ways. And like what is, like, why do we do it? You know what
so
I mean? Like,
we self-sabotage. So I've gone through a little bit of self-sabotage, and I think a lot of it is related to self-worth.
Self-worth. Okay.
And which comes back to self-love. I think there's a lack of self-love, self-worth, what we're deserving of. And so I think there's times where, if we don't feel we're deserving of something that's being given to us, we'll sabotage it because, we don't feel that we're worthy of it.
Right.
And I can say that I've done that several times in relationships.
Yeah.
And where I've sabotaged. But I also sabotage because I was still healing from a broken heart. And for me, it was, my heart wasn't prepared, let's say, to fall in love again and get, and have it be broken again, have my heart be broken again.
Yeah.
So, there was times in my life where I would sabotage relationships because I just didn't want to go through another broken heart. And so I was, just sabotage it and basically block that from happening.
Right.
But a lot of it, I think, for me, is self-worth, self-love.
Okay.
And feeling worthy of this gift that we're being given.
Yeah. So
this opportunity.
Yeah, man. I mean, oh man. Yeah. I like when you say it, it's like,
a chord.
It's so simple. It's so simple, and it's like, man, maybe I need to work on like like you said, like the self-love, when you say that, I think confidence too, like what builds my self-worth, you know, how do I, we work like a lot of people just work, you know, these jobs, right? That maybe some people are into, like they're into their job, but maybe they're just like, a lot of people are just working for money, you know? And so like we go down this, like this kind of rat race of like, okay, I need to make money, you know, and now like maybe I'm making some money, but like I'm not really doing what I love. And so like you might be happy to a degree, you might think you feel sort of like a tinge of it, but then you're like, deep down, I feel like I'm not living my purpose. And so I think innately, like humans, like if they're not in their purpose, then they feel that misalignment. And so there's that underlying like feeling of like unfulfillment, unhappiness. And so that also ties to like self-worth, you know? So it's like, you know, like what is that, do we need to like start shifting towards like our purpose? You know, we say a purpose, it's like a kind of a general term, but like, I don't know, like what's your thought process on that? You know what I mean? Tied to like the self-worth and
I
everything.
think that the finding that self-purpose, that dharma, that spiritual purpose is important. And that, you know, when you're there, you will find that happiness and be in alignment with your soul's purpose. And I think that's when the abundance comes, when you're fully aligned with who you're supposed to be, when you're but it all starts with self-love. You know, and that's something that I realized early in the journey, and everything, the self-worth and the lack of confidence and everything else, it all comes back to self-love. And so I think we all just need to really focus on, you know, filling up our own cup and getting to a place where we're happy. You know, we're never going to be happy in a relationship if we're not even happy with ourselves.
Right.
And so we really have to get ourselves to that place where we're in a loving place and happy by ourselves. And I think when you go through that spiritual journey, you do end up in isolation quite a bit, because you know, spirit will force you into isolation until you learn to be happy with yourself and give yourself that self-love.
Right.
You know, and I think a lot of people who struggle to find people also struggle with self-love. And so if you can get to that place where you have that self-love and you're happy and you can be alone and you can, you know, go eat alone at a restaurant, and then you're going to be at a place where you're going to start attracting real love, you know, because like attracts like.
Right.
You know, if you're carrying that real love inside of you already, then that's when you're going to start to meet those more fulfilling partners that are going to match your vibration.
That's awesome. Yeah. Your vibe attracts your tribe, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to shift a little bit over to this concept or like this idea of like spirit guides, right? It's something that I've heard of when I was young, first introduced by my dad. You know, he talks about his spirit guides. And you honestly were like the next person that I talked to that I knew that brought up the idea of spirit guides. And so that's super interesting to me. When did that first get introduced into your life, and like what did that look like? And
so it was early last year.
Okay.
You know, beginning of the year, I was doing a lot of journaling, kind of jumping into, you know, the spiritual stuff, and just constantly learning and watching YouTube videos, taking workshops from psychics that I follow, and just really connecting to your intuition.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was something that I wanted to do, and felt like if I can tap into that it can lead me to a better place. Yeah. And so I took a course that talked about automatic writing, which is kind of a stream of consciousness thing where you just write out everything that's in your head.
Throw up on the paper.
Just throw up on the paper. And we're doing this after we meditate. And so, you know, you're in a place where you're calm, your mind's clear, you start getting everything out on paper. But what happens is when you start writing questions, your guides will take over, your intuition will take over. And so what I found was, before I even finished writing the question, the answer would come.
Oh, interesting.
And almost immediately, and there's no delay. And so what I realize is, and what happens is, your intuition, your guides, your higher self will respond without delay. Your ego,
Mm.
doesn't have time to sit there and think about the answer and give you, the best
Yeah.
answer that it wants to give you. So I started to realize by asking questions that I didn't know the answer to, or even that I did, but I started to realize I was getting a response.
Okay.
And it wasn't from me.
Right.
And so it was then that I kind of started going through and using, through the writing. And over the course of the year, I figured out through trial and error, I started to get a physical response when I would ask my guides a question.
Yeah.
And so recognizing that physical response from them and being able to communicate through writing, I eventually got to the point where, I'm asking them yes and no questions, and I'm able to carry a little conversation with them because I feel that physical response, and I'm able to kind of, carry a conversation with them at this point, And at this point, going back to the beginning of this year, I felt compelled to just dive in fully, surrender fully to them and let them lead. And so what I've done this year is I basically, almost every decision that I make, I bounce it off of them.
Okay.
And now that we have this kind of two-way conversation, and I'm able to use their guidance in my direction and making decisions and whatnot. And so, it didn't come right away, but I knew that there was something there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really until the beginning of this year, maybe early or late last year, that I started to really have that two-way conversation and being able to figure out how they were responding to me.
So was this something that you said that you were journaling? Was that kind of sparked from this kind of a side question, but was that The Artist's Way? Was that the book, or what was the book that you said that you got prompted to like do this type of work where you're like, writing?
Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't The Artist's Way. I think I took a workshop from a psychic that I follow on either Instagram or YouTube.
Got it. Okay, so that was one of the.
Yeah, and it was basically how to connect to your guides or how to connect to your intuition, because it was something that I felt I could do and I was capable of. I felt something there.
Okay.
And so, I just took a course from another psychic, and that was one of the techniques that she used to say, hey, this is how, someone just further along the journey than me who's done it and has the experience.
So you were intentionally trying to connect with your guides when you were doing that?
Yes, absolutely.
Got it. Okay. I thought you were just like journaling and then you start asking questions and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, the pen starts moving.
Whoa, dude, what's this? Like,
no, and it was really what convinced me was that it was somebody else. Was I wrote a question and I got a response that was really that I wasn't expecting. It wasn't something that my ego would have guessed at or came up with. So I was like, wait, like where did that answer come from?
Right.
And surprised me and was really interesting, but then it made a lot of sense. And so that's when I started to, and obviously, it came from the other psychic, and she was like, this is one of the techniques to do it. And so I realized that it worked, and I continued to do that. I did a lot of meditation last year and had a good, morning routine of getting down on my pillows and sitting down and journaling. And so I spent a lot of time getting to that point where I started to open up that dialogue and that connection.
Interesting. So sort of where my mind goes with this topic, which I feel like I need to address, is that there's going to be all types of people watching, all different religions, right? And some people that might be watching might be like, that's kind of dangerous. Like you might be like, connecting to like demons or something. But then if you say something like that, then there's also like angels, right? So would you say that there's, through that process, did you encounter any like sort of spirits that were of a negative feeling, that were like maybe answering things a little weird and you're like, I don't really need that in my space, like get out of here kind of thing? Or like, how did you like, you know what I mean? Like,
no. And I think there's usually some people that are, aware of those things that can happen, opening yourself up and have those worries. And for me, I wasn't too worried because I knew I was communicating, directly with it's like just listening to your intuition. I mean, there's a connection there that you're already connected. So it's not like you're opening yourself up to allow something else in. So I think you're almost in kind of a closed form of communication there. I did dabble a little bit with channeling and did have an interesting experience that kind of pushed me away from.
So how's that different? Like, how's the channeling?
So with the channeling, you're really opening yourself up to, whoever's wants to come in. And so open is open. And so, you just, there are a few things that I was taught. I did take a course from another channeler on YouTube. And he did have, some sort of protective saying and said, this may occur, and this, has occurred to a friend of mine. But if you go through and say this, then, you'll be able to get rid of, this entity or whatever, this attachment. And so the first time I actually channeled the Pleiadians.
Interesting.
And it was actually a very interesting and a wonderful experience. I felt like once I was able to connect with them, I felt like I was being held and supported by just, the most loving beings. Just felt so... just like I said, loved, supported, a part of something, and it was just a really amazing energy and feeling that came over my entire body. And so that was a really interesting experience for me. The Pleiadians.
Pleiadians. So tell me, what's the
Pleiadians? So the Pleiades star. There's some beings that are on several planets that surround that star.
Interesting.
The Pleiades, and they've apparently had a big role in our history and in helping shape humanity and so but it's the Pleiadians, as far as I know from other stuff that I read and listen to, are one of the main star races that are in charge of Earth.
Interesting.
And protecting Earth, and are going to be the one of the first ones to communicate with us once that shift happens.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a positive energy.
Yes,
sounds like
absolutely. They're basically our parents, taking care of us, protecting us, helping us, guide us to to a better place.
Man, this stuff's so crazy. Like this topic, it's just like so wild. You know what I mean? But then going back to the channeling, man, like when I was in high school, I heard some like girls that were like using the Ouija board. Is it using the Ouija board, or is it like, how do you...
It's similar. Okay. So the Ouija, you're really, you're opening up a channel.
Interesting.
You know, and that's where you're not really sure what's going to come in. Open is open. Yeah. And so sometimes...
Did you use the Ouija board that time?
I've never used a Ouija board. But I just did it through, walking myself through a certain meditation, a guided meditation to really open yourself up to them.
And you were solo?
I was solo in my room. And like I said, the first attempt at, reaching out to the Pleiadians, I felt a really just amazing energy coming to my body, a warmth of being loved, of being, connected, of being supported. And, and then when I tried to channel the Arcturians, which is another star race, a very advanced race in our universe, I had a very interesting character pop his head into the portal and that I had created above my head and kind of take a look around, and he almost took a look around like he had chosen the wrong door and then pulled his head back out. But it was kind of a scary looking thing. It was kind of like a praying mantis type looking thing, humanoid, which as if you're in this space, know that they actually exist. And so I wasn't sure about his energy when he came in. So I just kind of, I stopped. I just closed the portal and kind of stopped and said, "Oh, I'm good. I'm gonna wait until I can, talk to somebody about this and whether it's good or not." But in in recent times, I've tried to channel a little bit more, and I've had a little bit more
Okay.
success, and just, I'm a little bit more aware now. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a possibility. Like, open is open. But for
Mm-hmm.
the most part, there's ways that you can take to protect yourself.
Okay. And the spirit guides, like, are they? So you do you give them names? Like, is it
They have names. I
okay?
haven't really gone through that yet with them.
And you have multiple spirit guides.
So when I started communicating with them,
Yeah.
I had 5. So
Okay.
probably still do. But recently, a different one has started answering a lot more. And so I feel that one of them is either taken a step back
Okay.
or moved on, because what your guides are there for is to guide you to certain experiences in your life that you
Yeah.
have a soul contract
Okay.
to fulfill.
Okay.
So you have, let's say you have, half a dozen moments and lessons that your soul has signed up to learn in this
Yeah.
lifetime.
Yeah.
So your guides are leading you to those experiences. And once
Interesting.
you get through to those experiences, then once, that guide isn't needed anymore, then they're going to, maybe they're going to leave,
Okay.
and somebody else will take over
Got it.
that's stronger in leading you towards, say, like financial success
Interesting.
or love or
Yeah.
whatnot. And so I started with 5, and I want to say I'm, maybe down to 4 at this point. I just asked, like, did you see that little yawn that came in?
Yeah.
So that's the physical response they came in. So I
Interesting.
think I'm down to 4 now, because like I've said, I'm getting this response more, that blinking,
Oh.
where before it would be a yawn from my other
Oh. Okay.
spirit guide. And I have another guide who responds kind of down in my hip area. So
Oh, interesting.
depending on who's responding, I get a different physical response in different
Yeah.
parts of my body.
So, and is this like is this like a karmic thing? Like, as far as the contracts, like with you get to a certain place in your life, and they're like, our job here is like my job here is done. Like,
I think
what
so.
what in your perspective, like, what do you like? Were these people that were, you know what I mean? Like, what's the
These are it's your soul family.
soul family?
These are
Okay.
the same people. We all go through our lives with the same souls,
Mm-hmm.
and and through each lifetime,
Yeah.
who the person who might be your dad in this lifetime, that same soul could be your dog, and the next one could be your
Interesting.
girlfriend, could be your brother,
Right. Right.
and so essentially there's an oversoul,
Mm.
and that oversoul will split into multiple souls in
Mm.
order to give himself those experiences, in
Wow.
order to grow.
Right.
And that is what your soul family is. And
Whoa.
your soulmate and your twin flame
Yeah.
are all a part of those soul
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And these are the people that you go through every life in, and everyone plays a different role, but
Yeah.
everybody's there to give each other different lessons.
Yeah.
And so that, the whole point of the soul is just to grow,
Yeah.
and just to strengthen and be,
Yeah.
come to that place of unconditional love.
Right.
And so we're constantly going through lessons, and that's what our soul contracts are.
Mm.
We sign up to learn certain lessons, go through certain experiences,
Yeah.
and that's what our guides are, guiding us to.
Interesting. Okay, so they could be you like you said they're part of the soul family. So that potentially they could, maybe not in this lifetime, but in another, maybe they could be a physical like manifestation, like in your life potentially.
Yes, that is a possibility. They
Okay.
could actually be, reincarnated as a human down here, and you
Interesting.
could meet them. That is a possibility. I
Yeah.
think that's happened for others,
Yeah.
where they actually can meet their
Yeah.
guide.
Yeah.
For it could be like your ancestors. It could be, your grandmother who
Yeah.
passed, who's
Yeah.
now, kind of taken that role,
Yeah.
as your guide,
Yeah.
going forward. And so it's also your higher self. Your
Mm.
higher self, your soul's in a different place. Like for me, from talking to my guides, my soul comes from Andromeda.
Okay.
And so for the Andromeda, I'm an Andromedan starseed. And so I was just asking them last night, they don't even have bodies. They're just a consciousness.
Interesting. Okay.
But they're powerful enough to create a body if they want to create a body and be
Okay.
seen in some sort of,
Got it.
3D
Got
manifestation.
it.
They have that ability to do that.
Okay.
But I'm communicating with essentially energy.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of asking them really interesting questions
Yeah.
last night, like, are you on a planet? Yes, but
Yeah, yeah.
but you don't have bodies, so and so I asked them, well, does the planet help ground you guys in some sort of way? And I got a yes, because there's something about their energy and about having to be on that planet that helps them ground their energy, even though they don't have a body.
Yeah. Wow. So
Yeah,
interesting,
pretty
man.
wild. Sometimes I
Oh
get
my
into some
gosh.
really, when it's
Yeah.
just myself, and
Yeah.
I'll get into these moods where I'm asking some really interesting questions.
Yeah.
And like kind of, surprise myself at what I'm asking and what I'm
Right.
learning.
Right.
And a lot of times that's at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
when I'm up and the veil's the thinnest and we're
Totally.
in those alpha waves, and you're able to have that two-way conversation, and it comes in a lot clearer.
Right.
At that hour, I usually can hear the whole sentence come in. And as opposed to just fishing for a yes or a no or a physical response.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. So, man, I'm going to kind of reel it back in here. And I'm thinking about like going back to like the mental health stuff and like people that are just, normal day-to-day people. Obviously, maybe they don't have all the time to kind of go as deep into this kind of topic and in this work as some others. But, you mentioned meditation, the type of meditations, like, using colors. I'm trying to think about like maybe a few things that we can kind of leave the audience with that could help them if they are struggling right now. Something that if you were there, if they were your client, like how would you help them?
I would, very simply start with going back to the self-love, is getting them to get on some sort of self-care program.
Okay, self-care
that
program.
starts to address their, their physical health.
Yeah.
And their mental health.
Yep.
And so, we know just by, going to the gym and running, that'll clear your mind, get rid of your anxiety, go lift some weights. That'll help you release some of that anger.
Yeah.
The breath work will help you kind of, help ground yourself.
Yeah.
The meditation, the grounding, you can walk barefoot in the sand, barefoot in the park.
Yeah.
And just really just start with the self-care and the self-love.
Yeah.
And I think from there it can grow into something else. And so feeding yourself better foods, just all the little things that you can do to start giving yourself more love, and you're just creating some momentum.
Yeah.
And start with the little wins and just start stacking those small wins.
Yeah.
Until they're bigger wins.
Totally.
But I think starting with self-love, not, being aware of your mental state, when you start having those intrusive thoughts, just being able to recognize them right away.
Right.
We all have them. I still get them, and it's stopping them as soon as you can. You can just tell yourself not useful.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you catch it, oh, it's not useful.
Yeah.
And just let it go.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll say, cool story, bro.
Story.
I'm just making up some fucking bullshit story.
Yeah.
And so I just say, I'll just kind of laugh at myself and laugh it off. But for the most part, it's, stop those intrusive thoughts, just change your mind, do whatever it takes. If you can just like looking forward and just say mirror, door, light switch, just get your mind to switch off of those intrusive thoughts and just, being, and then, like I said, going back to the self-care, eating better foods, exercising, staying off your phone,
right. That's a big one.
Try not to doom scroll too much, getting better sleep.
Oof,
and it really just starts with that and the self-care and the self-love. And then you start, caring more about yourself and the energy that you're carrying, and you start to feel better, and then that will just spiral into, wanting to jump into it fully.
I would say one more thing is going out into nature too.
100%. I mean, that's really how I got a lot of my meditation and released a lot of my issues. I took some time off and I went, up to Bishop and I
Yeah.
fly fished for 4 months.
That's awesome.
And spent 4 months in the Sierras.
That's amazing.
But really, I really needed that time
Yeah.
to decompress and to release that, all that stuff that I had been carrying for years. And so, that's just a great part of it. The sunshine, getting in the ocean, and
Totally.
being, immersed in nature is just so good for your body.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you got going on right now? Like, I know you sort of mentioned to me before that you are planning some retreats. Obviously, you're working with some clients, things like that. Like, what's going on in your life?
Yeah, I'm right now. I'm focusing on just kind of getting my YouTube up and getting some viewership on my YouTube. I think, I was considering writing a second book, and after talking with my guides, I feel, and they feel, that YouTube is the better way to go because I'm going to have a better reach.
Yeah.
Having that platform is so valuable.
Right.
To, put out content and get that viewership that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And to spread information.
Yeah.
And so I think I can reach more people through YouTube, and I'm just going to start putting more information on my YouTube.
Yeah.
And like we talked a little bit about the retreats. Yeah, I would love to hold some retreats here and abroad where we spend a week kind of immersed in the yoga and the meditation and doing the energy work and doing a week of healing, but also, using it to do the self-care, eating better, sleeping better, meditation, yoga, it could be surfing, just really, grounding yourself and getting to a place where you can just, refresh and recharge, re-energize, and just, come back to your life just, in a better place, ready to.
We could all use some of that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the goal right now is just, I'm planning some retreats, probably won't be till next year.
Cool.
But I would love to do some, start here in Southern California and then go abroad, places like El Salvador, Costa Rica, where, you can get into the jungle.
Sign me up, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And just kind of be immersed in a really cool space and have a week away where, you really get a lot of inner work done.
Yeah, definitely. And for the audience that are watching, where can they find you?
You can find me. I'm on YouTube under Babak, Ehdaie. Babak is my first name, my legal name. And, I'm on YouTube, and I'm also on Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm Bobogram, BOBBO_gram.
Cool.
But most of my, spiritual stuff's going to be on TikTok. And on our TikTok and YouTube.
I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, no, YouTube and TikTok, they're basically the same.
Yeah.
Kind of mirror each other. But I'm going to be putting a lot more effort into my YouTube at this time because I think I can just have the biggest reach and the biggest impact. Yeah. And really just focusing on sharing my message and my truth. I feel that's just the way that I can separate myself from everybody else's content, is just be myself. Share my authenticity, my point of view, and whoever, likes to listen to me talk will,
Heck yeah, dude.
We'll keep coming back.
Yeah,
hopefully.
man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, dude. It's been an awesome conversation. I think the viewers will definitely enjoy and appreciate a lot of the things that we shared here, and that you were able to, share with them. So thanks for hopping on. Yeah. Maybe we can do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, looking forward. There's definitely more to share. And so we can pick up the conversation
definitely
another time.
Sweet. Awesome, man. Well, thank you, Bobby. Appreciate you hopping on, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast. All right. Peace.